Page 92, Strength of the Emotions. We are only passive insofar as we are a part of nature which cannot be conceived by itself without other parts. The force whereby a man persists in existing is limited and is infinitely surpassed by the power of external causes. Man is necessarily always a prey to his passions. He follows and obeys the general order of nature, and he accommodates himself thereto as much as the nature of things demands. The force of any passion or emotion can overcome the rest of a man's activities or power, so that the emotion becomes obstinately fixed to him. An emotion can only be controlled or destroyed by another emotion contrary thereto, and with more power for controlling emotion. The knowledge of good and evil is nothing else but the emotions of pleasure or pain, in so far as we are conscious thereof. A true knowledge of good and evil cannot check any emotion by virtue of being true, but only in so far as it is considered as an emotion. Desire arising from the knowledge of good and bad can be quenched or checked by many of the other desires arising from the emotions whereby we are assailed. Desire arising from pleasure is stronger than desire arising from pain. Page 94, Virtue and Laws of Reason. Number 1, General. By virtue, virtuous, and power, I mean the same thing, that is, virtue insofar as it is referred to man, is a man's nature or essence, in so far as it has the power of effecting what can only be understood by the laws of that nature. As reason makes no demands of contrary to nature, it demands that every man should love himself, should seek that which is useful to him, I mean, that which is really useful to him, should desire everything which really brings man to greater perfection, and should each for himself endeavor, as far as he can, to preserve his own being. Again, as virtue is nothing else but action in accordance with the laws of one's own nature, and as no one endeavors to preserve his own being, except in accordance with the laws of his own nature, it follows, first, that the foundation of virtue is the endeavor to preserve one's own being, and that happiness consists in man's power of preserving his own being. Secondly, that virtue is to be desired for its own sake, and that there is nothing more excellent or useful to us, for the sake of which we should desire it. Thirdly, and lastly, that suicides are weak-minded, and are overcome by external causes repugnant to their nature. The human body stands in need for its preservation of a number of other bodies, by which it is continually, so to speak, regenerated. Hence it follows that we can never arrive at doing without all external things for the preservation of our being or living, so as to have no relations with things which are outside ourselves. Again, if we consider our mind, we see that our intellect would be more imperfect if mind were alone and could understand nothing besides itself. There are, then, many things outside ourselves which are useful to us, and are, therefore, to be desired. Of such none can be discerned more excellent than those which are in entire agreement with our nature. For if, for example, two individuals of entirely the same nature are united, they form a combination twice as powerful as either of them singly. Therefore, to man there is nothing more useful than man, nothing, I repeat, more excellent for preserving their being can be wished for by men, than that all should so in all points agree, that the minds and bodies of all should form, as it were, one single mind and one single body, and that all should, with one consent, as far as they are able, endeavor to preserve their being, and all with one consent seek what is useful to them all. Hence men who are governed by reason, that is, who seek what is useful to them in accordance with reason, desire for themselves nothing which they do not also desire for the rest of mankind, and consequently are just, faithful, and honorable in their conduct.